What up everyone, my name is Trey Baird and this is Gossipin' Games. Forgive the outfit, I forgot to record my intros, so I'm doing this on a separate shoot. Today we're going to be talking about Majik Ninja Entertainment and the Juggalo culture. So I did a video about Twisted leaving Psychopathic shortly after it happened back in December of 2012, I believe it was. And it was pretty big news at the time, and it's continuing, the effects are continuing to be felt to this day. And it continues to be a hot subject. There's been so many rumors about the behind the scenes reasonings, and it's only been fueled by more and more speculation. Even right when it happened, Twisted did a press release saying that the story isn't what happened, it's what's happening. And a lot of people didn't quite understand what they meant by that. But I think it started to become obvious. Twisted is making history with Majik Ninja Entertainment. And even though it's being run similarly to Psychopathic, there are differences. And the differences are subtle, but they're also very obvious once you really get into the scene. One major difference that I've noticed about Majik Ninja is that they're putting out a lot more stuff, a lot more music specifically, than Psychopathic is. And I love that. My favorite era of Psychopathic records was around 2005, 2006, when they were putting out an album almost once a month. And that was just awesome because you always had something to look forward to. You always had something new to be excited about. And maybe the counter argument was that it was oversaturation. Maybe the less is more attitude was prevailing back then. And while I do agree that if you have to choose quantity or quality, choose quality, I don't necessarily think that the two have to be mutually exclusive of each other. What's wrong with having quantity and quality? I mean, if you're an artist, if you're a professional artist getting paid to do what you do, why wouldn't you do it more often? And I don't, and the thing is, what they do is generally a pretty inexpensive art form. I mean, especially nowadays, rap, hip-hop, whatever label you want to call the type of music that they do, and it's pretty inexpensive. Especially when considering that they have their own recording studio, they don't have to pay for that. They don't really pay for band or instruments, so I mean, it's not like super cheap or any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that has become rather inexpensive to do in the 21st century, at least compared to other art forms. Like, movie making, for example, is still fairly expensive. It's getting cheaper, especially when you do it, when you're considering, independent films. Independent films can be made for, next to nothing if you're dedicated enough to it. I mean, even Psychopathic did a independent film for, I believe it was around $1 million, which is, for the average Joe, that's a lot of money, but, and they said it was a lot of money for them too, and I don't doubt that, but it's doable for them to spend $1 million on making a movie. For someone like me, a little less doable. And, it was obviously a high-risk venture because I doubt that they made $1 million off of their movie. But, maybe they did. They've always been a little bit kind of trying to choose my words wisely here. They've always been secretive when it comes to the financial aspect of their business, which is their right to do. They don't really like to talk about their financial matters because that's not the type of company that they are. They're more into mythology and storytelling and all that jazz. But yeah, I mean, first of all, just the sheer number of music that number of musical projects that Majik Ninja is putting out is enough to get my attention, because it looks like they're moving towards that business model of 12 musical projects a year, one a month, and I think that's awesome. I mean, in Blaze Dead Homie promised 3 musical projects this year, 3 albums, and I guess he fulfilled that. You know, it was the Casket Factory, it was Dead Vulture, and it was Zodiac Imprint. So, I mean, when I heard him say that, I was like, you know, this sounds like another potential broken promise, but looks like they came through on it. And then in the background, while nobody was looking, their new guy, Lex the Hexmaster, put out 4 albums within a year. I mean, that is crazy insane. You know how long it takes a psychopathic artist to put out 4 albums? I mean, come on now. That's just crazy. I mean, granted, 3 of them were short projects like EPs and mixtapes, but that's still pretty cool in my opinion. One of them was a full-length LP, so there is that. At the time of recording this, his full-length album isn't out yet, but I'm planning on getting it when it comes out next week. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I'm enjoying Lex the Hexmaster a lot more than I thought I would. I wasn't too sure about him at first. I thought he was pretty generic, but you know, his whole persona and his flow has grown on me. He kind of reminds me, his look reminds me of that guy off of Sinister. And you know, he has this whole mythological urban legend thing about him, a certain X factor, je ne sais quoi, that I can't put into words. I just think it's really cool. And as far as the way he carries himself, he reminds me of like old school ABK, and that's a good thing. I like ABK a lot. But you know, he definitely represents Queens, New York really well. I think he's cool. I always have trouble with that part. So I went to see a Majik Ninja show on Halloween. They were in St. Louis, and it was ICP, it was Lex, it was Zodiac Imprint, and it was Menace to Sobriety and Mac Lethal, and it was a really solid show. And I enjoyed Zodiac Imprint and Lex the Hexmaster in person, which I thought I would, but that's pretty cool. Ah, zigged when I should have zagged. What really struck me though about the show was the stage setup. You know, at a psychopathic show, usually like an ICP show, they'll have a big elaborate stage setup and there'll be some kind of theming, like there's the Wicked Clowns from Outer Space, there, you know, and there's all these, it looks like they're on the set of the Jetsons movie or something, and there's the Wicked Wonka tour, which looked like they were in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka Factory. Hold that thought. Damn it! Almost! Almost! So yeah, Wicked Wonka tours, like they were in the Willy Wonka Factory, and they got Oompa Loompas running around, which is badass. But you know, their thing is they reveal this set like at the beginning of their set list, their concert. So if you happen to open for ICP, you're not performing on this badass set, you're performing in front of it. And they cover everything with all these ugly black tarps. And they kind of, sometimes, like the other openers will have little mini sets, and it's sort of like Russian nesting dolls, how everything the tarps keep coming off. And you gradually get to see everything until finally, when it's time for ICP to come out, all the tarps come down and everything lights up and it's badass. And that works for them, but it just sucks if you're an opener, because you have to perform in front of this tarped up set, and it just kind of looks cheap, and not in a good way. And it just always has bothered me. But with Majik Ninja, what they do is they had these two banners on both sides, and it was advertising the upcoming projects for Majik Ninja. Lex's album, G-Moski's album, Twisted's album, and in between that, behind, there was this big projection screen, and it would play video during some songs, but usually it would just have the artist logo. So every opening group had their own logo behind them, and it looked like it was intentional. It didn't look like they were trying to hide something. So everyone's set looked good, and I was just a big fan of how Majik Ninja does stuff like that. It's the little differences. Damn it. It's just the little differences that make the big difference. And another difference is that the vibe at the shows that I've been going to, I've been going to a few Majik Ninja concerts now, and a different vibe is sort of starting to emerge from like psychopathic shows. And don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of the same people, but it's also a lot of different people. They're starting to develop their own fan base, and it's very much, Juggalo influenced, but like one difference I've noticed is there's a lot more females at a Twisted show than there is at an ICP show. And they'll be in the pit, the mosh pit as well, a lot more often. Like at an ICP show, you'll see females there, but usually they're with other guys. And with Twisted, they were less so there as, girlfriends or whatever. They were by themselves, or they were with other girls or whatever. And it's a different vibe. And there's not that there's anything wrong with that. There's not. It's just I do tend to pick up on differences like that, and it makes me curious as to why these differences occur. I don't really have an answer for why they occur. Twisted is more accessible in nature. They're also a little bit more emo than ICP. Well, okay, they're a lot more emo than ICP, and perhaps that's why girls are attracted to them. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But I truly feel like Majik Ninja Entertainment is here for the long run. I think they've earned their stripes, and I think that they're really going to be a force to be reckoned with in the upcoming years.